To another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in Guyana over the past week or so. And as is the norm, we always have a packed agenda of issues to discuss. I want to welcome all of you who are joining us on television right across Guyana. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To all of those of you who are joining us on Facebook Live across the length and breadth of Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and beyond, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And I want to invite you, as I would normally do, to share this program. Press the share button on your phone. Share the program on your phone, on your computer, or whatever device you're viewing the program from or on. Press that share button so that the program can be viewed by you as well as your friends and followers. I also want to invite you to follow the discourse in the comment section. Use the comment section to offer your views, to ask questions, to make inquiries, and to raise any issue that you may wish for us to discuss. So please let us have an engaging conversation. What are you doing? Let us have an engaging conversation so that we will engage with each other rather than me speaking all the time. So we'll begin by discussing the election campaigns. Election, as you know, is September the 1st. The President, exercising his powers in accordance with the relevant provisions of the Constitution, has proclaimed September the 1st as the date for elections, and has also, by proclamation, dissolved the National Assembly, and also has dissolved the regional democratic councils. So once those elected institutions are dissolved, then the pathway is now cleared for elections to those bodies. And as you know, the Constitution prescribes that those elections must be held in every 5 years. So we are going to that 5-year milestone once again. So we don't have members of parliament currently, and we do not have RDC councillors currently. All the seats in both elected bodies are now vacant and are available for elections. The only persons who are now being paid would be office holders. Of course, the staff of the two institutions and certain constitutional office holders who remain in office until another person is elected to replace them. And those persons are the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. The clerk is not in that set. The clerk is a position that continues. And the ministers of the government, because they remain as ministers of the government until a new president is appointed and until that president appoints new ministers. The ministers who are elected will remain ministers until that time. So they continue to be paid through the Parliament office because ministers are not paid, contrary to popular belief, by the office of the President, but they are paid through the Parliament office. So ministers will continue to receive their pay. The other members of Parliament are gone. I will continue to receive my pay as Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, not as a Member of Parliament. So, the election campaigns are now being launched. And we saw APNU launch its campaign last Sunday at the Square of the Revolution. And having been in this business now for quite some time, and having seen many APNU, PNC, AFC campaigns being launched, it is my view that this campaign, the launch of this campaign was lukewarm, to say in the least. The crowd was appreciably smaller when compared to previous similar launches. And the most ardent supporter of the PNC will agree with me. It was a disappointment, to say in the least. I saw several Facebook posts calling on certain news agency to send back their drones to take more pictures because they claim that the pictures that were taken at a time when the crowd was small. But the crowd didn't get appreciably bigger. I estimate that the fundraising dinner that we had at Arthur Chung Convention Center, or Arthur Chung Conference Center, was much larger by several more thousands than the crowd assembled at the APNU AFC rally on Sunday last. Much larger. And there people paid $5,000 to be present at that event. And they attended in their thousands. One estimate by a foreign national was that the event had 15,000 persons. That event, the event at the Square of the Revolution, cannot compare. And I believe that that is an indicia of what is to come. And no one can be surprised because the PNC is at its weakest. And many have said so. It is also a consequence of the exodus that have taken place over the past few months. Of course, leader of the PNC, Aubrey Norton, in putting up a brave presentation, argues that the hemorrhaging would not affect their political fortunes. In fact, he has been so bold to say that those who have left are not heavyweights. Well, it's not me to pass judgment on Mr. Norton or what he says about his party. But that must be a very unfortunate statement, because the persons who have left are persons whom the party put in the National Assembly to represent its interest and the interest of its constituents. And it would appear more than passing strange that at that high level, and in fact that's the highest level that you can put a person when you're in the opposition, because you're not in government, it is very illogical that you would put these persons at that high institution, the highest forum that is available to you in opposition. And then when they leave, you say that they are not heavyweights. Well, if they are not heavyweights, why were they in the parliament for the last 5 years? That's a question that Norton will have to answer to the membership and supporters of the PNC. And Mr. Norton has proceeded to identify persons whom he views as heavyweights. And based upon the publications I read in the news, Miss Flubess was described by Mr. Norton as a heavyweight. I am not going to judge Miss Flubess against an Amanza Desir, or I am not qualified to judge a Flubess against a Figuera. It's a matter for Mr. Norton and his political party. But I am just sharing these analyses for your consumption so that you get an appreciation of the mentality and thought processes of those who are aspiring for government. As you may have expected, it was promises galore at the rally. There was no holding back in a barrage of promises. You think about it. It was promised. And that is what the PNC cannot be faulted for. They can make, and they are not shy about it. They are not nervous about it. They are not afraid to make promises. And when you have that type of false bravado, there must be a reason why. And the reason why, which has history behind it, is that it has never fulfilled its promises. And it doesn't care that it has never done so. It has no track record of fulfilling promises, and it doesn't care to build one now. So they promise anything that is attractive. And I don't need to go back to the last manifesto to tell you that they promised in 100 days to complete constitutional reform. They promised to reduce taxation, but they increased it. They promised jobs for young people, but they created none. They promised to reduce tuition fees at the University of Guyana, but they increased it. They dropped 200 taxes on the backs of the Guyanese people. They didn't attract a single investor of worth. They promised to help the rice farmers, but they stifled them with high drainage and irrigation charges. They impose increase land charges and rents. They promise a reformed, modern, rehabilitated, diversified sugar sector. They promise no closure of estates, but we have lived to see what happened. And I can go on and on and on, but you know them more than I do. So, at the campaign launch, it was no different. The promises came one after the other. $1 million for every Guyanese. 35% increase in public servant wages. Senior citizens to get pensions at $100,000 per month. Income tax threshold would be increased to $400,000. Every child would get $120,000 annually. And that's just a synopsis of the promises. With these few promises that I have just written down here, within 1 year, not 1 year, within 6 months of government, we are bankrupt, or very close to bankruptcy, with just delivering these promises. There is not an iota of thought being given to sustainability, to affordability, to the financial and fiscal ability to deliver these promises. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. Just doling out promises. And these are the very people, when they had the chance, took all the benefits back away from the people. They took the subsidies away from GPL and GWI, and they dropped 15% VAT instead. They took away cash grant from the children, took it away, and here it is. They want to tell you that they're going to give the children $120,000. So these are con men at work. A con man will tell you anything that you want to hear, because he wants you to part with whatever he wants from you. So he will tell you anything that would allow him to get what he wants. That's how con artists operate. And what you witness there is that. And you will see that throughout the campaign. And that is what they have been doing. That is what they have been doing. So you will get many more. A lot more promises will come your way. And then you had one of them promising that Gaisuku will go, sugar will go, and cannabis, marijuana will come. And instead of sugar, cannabis will be planted. Marijuana will be planted. In plantation style. In a massive scale. Because sugarcane, though many estates have closed, is still cultivated in a very large scale in this country. And the gentleman on this stage is telling you and telling the world that we will stop planting cane and we will plant instead cannabis, marijuana, dope. And there is nobody on the platform, or even up to now, who have not signaled to either the speaker who made those statements, or to the party that the gentleman is advocating the commission of a serious criminal offense. Planting marijuana on that scale is serious. It's a serious criminal offense. That is large scale drug trafficking you're talking about. Commercial scale drug trafficking. You're talking about exporting a prohibited substance in commercial quantities. You know, being in possession of marijuana is still a crime in this country. What we changed the law to do was to remove custodial sentence, but it is still an offense to be in possession of certain quantities. But this guy is speaking about tons. So the amendments to the law doesn't apply to him. I see as an afterthought a statement emanated from the PNC to say, not to say what he's saying constitute several criminal offenses, but to say that they're not going to close Gaisuku. That Gaisuku will continue to operate. I presume that they will continue to plant sugar. But they did not say or did not debunk or repudiate what the gentleman said, that they will plant ganja as well. So that seems to be still on the agenda. So that has not been repudiated. So we will have, they're promising large-scale ganja production apparently in the country. Sunday, the 13th of July, the PPP will launch its campaign at a rally, with a rally at Kitty Market Square. And you will see the thousands that will be in attendance. All of you who are listening to me, come out at Kitty Market Square on July the 13th, that's Sunday coming. Join us in your thousands and show them the launch of the mighty Red Force. And then they will understand what is a launch of a political rally. But we don't speak a lot about these things. We allow the event to speak for itself. So all of you who are listening to me, join us in our mega launch of the 2025 election campaign at Kitty Market Square on July 13th, Sunday, July 13th. And as I am on the elections, let me use this opportunity to welcome and congratulate. Welcome the appointment of Mr. Justice Winston Anderson, who was officially sworn in Sunday as the new president of the Caribbean Court of Justice, and to offer to Justice Winston Anderson the congratulations of the government of Guyana, the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, congratulations. And let me offer also congratulations on behalf of the people of Guyana. Justice Winston Anderson will now function as President of the Caribbean Court of Justice. He has spent several years on the bench and has already presided in many important cases emanating from Guyana and has rendered sterling judgments in those cases. We wish him all success in that post. And since election is around the corner, we don't know whether we will end up at the CCJ and how many times we will end up at the CCJ in relation to these elections. 2020 elections and our sojourn, several sojourns to the court may still be fresh in your minds. The usual suspects are still around. Those who attempted to rig the elections are very much with us. They are very much contesting these elections. Up to now, we have not heard either an admission of guilt or a word of repent or contrition. But what we have heard is complete denial and, worse yet, victimhood. They are the victims. The perpetrators have become the victims of attempted fraud. Well, they are saying that they are the victim of fraud. So that's what we have had instead. But I am convinced that every time they say so, they put a nail in their own coffin. So we can't rule out anything. We can't rule out the possibility of litigation or several litigation, which may or may not travel all its way to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Once the electoral miscreants are around, anything is possible. Many persons have asked me to provide an update on the election cases. And I had it prepared here. I have it, let me see. As you know, many witnesses have already testified. The election trials, the fraud trials have started. Many witnesses have testified. Let me read their names for you. The witnesses that have already testified are Rosalinda Rasul, Sonia Parag, Kian Jabur, ASP Raul Ned, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Edgar Thomas, Christopher Nascimento, and Jonathan Yearwood is currently in the witness box and under cross-examination. So the trial has made some headway in some of the charges, and those are the witnesses who have testified so far. In terms of dates for the month of July, we have the 28th of July already fixed for continuation, 29th of July, and 30th of July. So we have 3 dates already in July for the continuation, 28th, 29th, and 30th of July, 2025. And then there are some dates fixed in September, October, and November. Several dates fixed in October, September, October, and November. So right away you get the clear impression that the case will not be concluded before September the 1st. And that must be a travesty from every conceivable perspective. That we would be completing another election cycle. And those who were accused of attempting fraudulent conduct at the 2020 elections, at the last elections, the cases have not yet been concluded. And it is not because the prosecution was not ready. The prosecution discharged its obligation with reasonable competence, if I may say so, based upon everything that is available in the public domain, and diligence. But you have been following the trials, and you have seen where the delay came from. However, the trials will continue, and we will see where they end up. So let me go back to I had to read something from the phone, so I got off the phone there. So let me go back to the live. So please share the program. Press the share button on your phone. Share the live so that all your friends and all your families can join us. All your friends and all your followers can join us in our discussion here tonight. And I'm trying to read some of the wet messages, read some of the comments. I read, you see, a lot of people waited for that update, a lot of comments about the case. A lot of people are interested in that case, and that's what I'm saying, that it's a case of national importance, and it's a case that the public is following very closely and with absolute justification, because it is an important case. Attempts were made to derail the democratic process of this country. Attempts were made to steal the ballots of the people of this country, or to deny them the validity of their ballots, because there were attempts to do all of that. So I'm happy that the people of Guyana are scrupulously following these developments as they are unfolding, and we are where we are now, facing another elections. And as I said, there is a likelihood that we can have attempts at reoccurrence, and that's why we have to remain vigilant. The same perpetrators are around, and that's all that they know to do. Well, that's not all that they know to do, but that's one thing that they know to do, and they know to do it very well. The Deeds and Commercial Registry Authority will be opening another office, this time in Madhya, Region 8. You will recall that President Ali had made a promise that offices of the Deeds and Commercial Registry Authority will be opened, will be established in all the regions, all the outlying regions of the country. Well, this week we will be establishing one in Madhya, and that will be done, I believe, Friday. And before the end of the month, another one will be established in Region 10, in Linden. When that one is established in Linden by the end of this month, we will have completed establishing offices in all the outlying regions. We already have in Region 1, we have a spanking new building in Region number 2 on the Essequibo coast at Suddy, a brand new building that the President opened. I attended, I spoke. The Chancellor, I believe, spoke as well. Massive, many stories building, modern, air-conditioned living quarters, etc. We established offices, an office in Region 7 in Bartica. We established an office in Region 9 at Lethem. And now we are concluding the outlying areas by opening one at Madhya Friday and at Linden, Region 10. This means that all the residents of Madhya. Madhya is a town, Linden is a town. All these persons ordinarily would have had to travel to Georgetown to conduct business with the Deeds and Commercial Registry and or to access services of this important institution. They can now do so in their own region. They can register their own businesses, they can register their own companies, they can file their own transports, do their transfer of certificates of title, they can do their own deed of gift, do their own agreements of sale, conveyancing of documents, deed poll, powers of attorney, any form of deed, and all the multiplicity of services that are offered by this crucial institution. They can do it right there in their region. They can register their own businesses, renew their business registrations, and all those things. I can't list them. There are many, many, dozens of functions are performed by that important institution. Dozens of services are offered by that important institutions that these people ordinarily had to travel to Georgetown to access, or to a region where the office is. Is Georgetown, they had to come from Linden, is Georgetown. If it is Madhya, originate is Georgetown. Now, these offices are going to be in their respective regions. So this is taking government to the people. This is taking services to the people. This is diversifying our country, developing our country, taking services to people wheresoever they are located. No longer must services be centered only in the urban cities of our country. They must be available and must be accessible in all the regions of our country. And that was the essence of President Ali's promise when he said that we will establish. And I wanted to ensure that the president's promise is delivered before elections. And that's why by the end of this month, we are going to open that office in Linden. Significantly, I should say also that we are building a brand new sub-registry for the Deeds and Commercial Registry Authority at New Amsterdam, opposite where the High Court is located, at Esplanada. Currently, the Deeds and Commercial Registry Authority occupies very cramped conditions beneath the High Court building, which they share with the Registry of the Court. The conditions have become almost intolerable. I visited recently, and there is hardly any space for persons to walk. And the documents that are being stored there are large volumes, and you don't have space. So headquarters is badly needed in Berbice, and we are building a brand new building at Esplanada Road. The contract sum, I'm told, would be somewhere, the cost would be somewhere between 767 million. The bid will soon be out. $767 million for a modern complex that will house the Deeds and Commercial Registry in Berbice, New Amsterdam, Berbice. I keep seeing in the press an issue that is arising over and over again, and that is, I don't know whether it is being deliberately stoked by lawyers or journalists, or repeating an old story. What I'm referring to is a recurring story in the news that the family of Adriana Young has not yet received the autopsy report. I want to set the public record straight. On Monday, the 16th of June 2025, the Guyana Police Force shared with the attorney at law for the family the autopsy report. The attorney at law being the law office of Dexter Todd. Dexter Smart, I believe, actually received the document. And I believe I spoke with him and he confirmed receipt. And this was since June, very early in June. I think on the 6th of June that report was handed over. The 6th or the 16th, I'm not sure. I believe it's the 6th. So I hope that this issue will not be repeated in the newspapers again, with the contention that the family, the police, is refusing to hand over the autopsy report to the family. And to their credit, the police made this disclosure public. And for some weird reason, there is still a running story in several news outlets that the autopsy report has not been given to the family or the family's lawyer. That is not true. And I hope that we will put an end to that. The restorative justice centers that we have opened across the country are now functioning, and we have restorative justice officers that we are hiring across the country. We have offices at the Regional Democratic Office Compound Triumph, East Coast Demerara, and that office services courts in Georgetown and on the east coast of Demerara. We have offices at Port Drawing, West Bank, Demerara, and that's at the Probation Office Building, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security at Port Drawing, and they serve the courts at Wiedenhoop, Wales, Lenora, Wakenham, and Leguan. We have probation office. We have another office at the Probation Office Building, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security at Fort Wellington, West Coast, Berbice, and this serves courts from Maiconi to Blairmont, and we are establishing these offices in all the other regions of our country. We are hiring trained persons that we have trained and who are in the community. They are being hired and they are paid a salary. So restorative justice is up and running in Guyana. We are even trying to locate more space, both in Region 6 as well as in Region 2, for us to locate more offices in those regions as we continue to expand the program to every region in the country. And that's the point I keep making. All the resources that are available in the urban centers of our country will be made available by our government in every part of the country. So the Enmore Hospital was declared open this week, or last week, by His Excellency, the President. And I often say that we are the most fortunate generation of Guyanese, Because what our foreparents dreamt of, what they toiled for, what they made tremendous sacrifices for, they never realized most of it. We are now the beneficiaries of what they dreamt of and worked for. So all these villages, Enmore and many other villages, you had dispensaries. That's what our foreparents had. Or medical clinics, very small facilities, with a dispenser or a nurse in these communities, in these villages outside of Georgetown. That is what you had. Dispensaries, health centers or health posts, where doctors come occasionally, and the place was being manned by medics or medexes, by nurses, and by semi-trained health professionals. That is what our foreparents knew. They dreamt for far better than that. And today, when you go to Enmore, you see that dream being realized. A modern, state-of-the-art hospital to serve the people on the east coast of the Demerara. No longer would they have to come to Georgetown to do important medical procedures. Those facilities and those services can be accessed right there at Enmore. There are some 70 beds, or 170 beds, I can't remember. Many wards, fully air conditioned. All the important x-rays and all the other examinations that you need, you can get it right there. We will be opening one at Bath Settlement shortly, on the boundary of Bath Settlement, Fort Wellington. Another one at 75 Village, Quarantine. Another one at the Kendren on the west coast of the Demerara. Another one at Lima on the Essequibo coast. All hopefully before September the 1st. These are record-breaking achievements for any government in a 5-year period, in one electoral cycle. And this is only in the health sector. And these are not all the hospitals. You know about the pediatrician hospital, the children hospital, the women's hospital that's being built at Ogle. We have another hospital at New Amsterdam that's under construction. And we have built so many other medical facilities across the country. And I am so proud that I was part of the opening of that hospital on the east coast of Demerara, from where I hail, because I know what that means to the people of the east coast of Demerara, who since I know myself, every time they fall sick, they had to rush to go to Georgetown. They had to get vehicles to go into the deep recesses of the villages. You had mud, your vehicles can't go, they got to fetch them out, put them on the public road. You have to lie down there and then wait for a bus or a car to take them to Georgetown. We passed through all of that. That is what our parents and our foreparents passed through. Today, all of these villages, you can drive up to everyone's house. And with proper vehicles too. The vehicles that we used to have was Morris Oxford motor car, the windows can't wind up, the car leaking, all sorts of things. you know what we have come from. And that is why I'm saying that what our foreparents dreamt of, we are witnessing. Every road on the east coast of Demerara, or whichever village you're living in, is now either asphalted or concreted. Any road, any village you live in, whichever street you're living on, it is either asphalted and concreted or concreted. Those roads, ask your parents, ask your grandparents, they all used to be modams. All used to be modams. In this 5-year period, all those drains now we have to concrete. Build over all the bridges. We have started with some of the bridges already. And that is what I mean when I say that what they dreamt of, we are realizing. They dreamt of a harbor bridge, a bridge across the Demerara River looking like the one that is being built. They dreamt of that. And that is what we are fortunate to witness. And we mustn't take these things for granted. All of this can change. All of this can change if the government falls into the wrong hands. All of that can change. Because we have seen the ruination before. Our foreparents saw a bright future when we got independence. They struggled for independence. And what happened when we got independence? It passed from the colonial masters on to local masters. They first took away your right to remove them from government. That was the first thing they did. They took away your right to remove them from government. And once they took away that right, then they can do anything to you, and you cannot do anything to them because you can't remove them. They took away that right. And once you take away from a people that right, you have condemned them to a life of indignity, poverty, suffering, and everything that comes with indignity. And that is what these people are capable of doing. And you saw it up to 2020, up to the last elections. You saw their proclivity to return to that. You saw them attempt to do that. You saw them do it at their own elections. Don't listen to me. Listen to Annette Ferguson. Listen to Roysdale Ford. Listen to Amanza Desir. Listen to Vanessa Kissoon. Listen to Carl Greenidge. All of these people complain how elections at Congress Place were rigged against them. These are leaders of the PNC. If they're rigging their own elections against their own leaders, what do you think they will do to you? And once they do that, then accountability and transparency goes. They go, they disappear. And you wouldn't hear these, I tell you, I see some people writing. I see one man today, a man of letters. Somebody had to draw my attention to it because I don't read these things. A man who is supposed to be intelligent comparing a sanctioned individual, comparing that individual who has not displayed any, not an iota of learning, comparing that person to Walter Rodney, Guyana's most renowned scholar. I don't know if people suffering from dementia in this country, how can you make such an analogy? Something is wrong with you mentally. Something must be wrong with you mentally to even make that analogy. Even if you want to say, I don't know. But that is what you have intelligent people writing in the newspapers, comparing a sanctioned individual who is accused of depriving this country or failing to pay 50, I don't know how many million US dollars in taxes. And who is wanted, well, not wanted, but being sanctioned by the US authorities, and who is being investigated in Guyana for a variety of criminal actions. That person is being compared to Guyana's most renowned and internationally acclaimed scholar, Walter Rodney. And an educated man is making that analogy. True knowledge is in the minority in this country. Something is overtaking people. I don't know what's going on. I just want to, I see this issue is being raised in the public domain. Let me clarify that the Amerindian villages, historically and under the Amerindian Act, are not public property. They are private property. Most of them communally owned by title. And therefore, unauthorized persons can't enter an Amerindian reservation. That's what it's called in North America. Or an Indian reservation without permission. The same position obtains in Guyana under the Amerindian Act. And if you enter the Amerindian village without permission, you commit a criminal offense and you can be charged and placed before a magistrate for a summary offense. It's a criminal offense under the Act. The persons who under the law are presumed to have permission are government officers going into Amerindian communities to do government business. That category of persons are exempt from the permission and exempt by the Act. And the Amerindian Act simply re-legislate a position that had obtained even before 2006, before the enactment of this Act. It was always an offense to enter an Amerindian reservation or an Amerindian village without the permission of the village council or the village leaders. That was in our laws long ago, even in colonial times. So I see that is making the news now. Persons walking into the people's village without permission. I distinctly recall when I was Attorney General during the 2015 elections campaign, President Ramota was, I believe, denied entry into some village in Region 9, I think. And that's the president. He was denied, refused permission or something like that. It was in the news. So these things, we have to, but you're dealing with persons who doesn't seem to be able to obey and comply with legal rules and regulations. And they enjoy international notoriety in that regard. So this is where I have to say goodbye. We have passed program time. I want to thank you very much for spending the past hour with me. I believe that we have covered a lot of issues. The political campaign will heat up and we will have a lot more issues to talk about as the campaign unfolds. I want to see you Sunday, July the 13th at Kitty Market Square to launch the 2025 election campaign of the People's Progressive Party at its inaugural rally to celebrate that launch. See you there. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the week, and may God bless you.